Hurtigruten ferry in Norway is a public and cargo transit route that runs between the city of Bergen in the south to the Arctic town of Kirkenes in the far north. And it may just be one of the most beautiful cruises in the world. But the Hurtigruten coastal cruise isn't like most other cruises. Because this boat ride isn't just a people ferry. It also moves cargo and cars to help reach the remote communities along the Norwegian coast. And because people are just one of the many pieces of cargo that gets shipped along this route, shore times can range between a few hours to just a few minutes at each port. But with typical Norwegian efficiency, the tourism industry has sprung up around these ports that maximize what you can do in that short amount of time. We landed in the capital of Oslo before making our way up north to the town of Kirkenes to experience the southbound journey for ourselves. And this is what it was like. Kirkenes is an awesome town that sits just minutes away from the Russian border, about 400 miles north of the Arctic Circle. We loved the town so much that we spent 3 days snowmobiling, ice fishing, and kick-sledding around town with our new friend Roar, who runs a local Airbnb catering to tourists and cruisers. We boarded our Hurtigruten cruise and got ourselves checked in before heading to our room, which was much roomier than we expected. Once we were all settled, it was up to the main dining area to enjoy one of the best investments on the Hurtigruten ferry, the premium dining experience. Shortly after dinner, though, it was time for our first stop in the town of Vardø. We had time for a quick exploration of the historic Vardøhus fortress before making our way back to the boat. Our first night on the boat in the North Atlantic was a rocky one, as our stomachs worked to get used to the motion of the ocean. And when it was time to set foot on dry land in Hammerfest the next morning, land was a welcome sight. At 600 miles north of the Arctic Circle, Hammerfest is the northernmost town on the European mainland. We took a short stroll to an overlook and got a chance to get a good look at the ship we would be calling home for the next few days. And as we began our journey south from the top of Europe, the landscapes that we floated by just became more and more dramatic. Our next port was the town of Harstad, and it marked our first organized excursion. We embarked on a tour called The Taste of Vesterålen, which would see us meet up with the Hurtigruten at the next port of call in Sortland. The Taste of Vesterålen was one of our favorite Hurtigruten excursions. It began with a bus ride down to Trondenes, where we had the chance to explore the historic Middle Ages Trondenes Church, which was opened way back in 1435. Between the magical landscape and the beauty of this historic place, it stood out as one of the most jaw-dropping places that we've visited. Just a short walk from the church was the Trondenes Historical Center, which featured loads of historical artifacts and chronicled the amazing story behind the birth and growth of Norway. We boarded our bus for a drive to Svinøya Island to take in the scenery of the fjords. Then, we hopped on a ferry where we enjoyed some local brown cheese and snacks.
You like it? Thank you. Alright, may I try that?
Finally, we made the final drive to Sortland, where our ride was timed perfectly to see our Hurtigruten ship coasting beneath us on the way into town. And luckily, we made it back just in time to celebrate someone's very special 8th birthday. After lunch, we made a quick stop in Stokmarknes, which is the home base for Hurtigruten. Here, we got a chance to explore some of their decommissioned ships. As the sun began to sink low in the sky, we arrived in the town of Svinøya, one of Norway's most important fishing towns. I'm not sure if it was the early sunset or the surrounding mountains and islands, but Svinøya was one of the prettiest towns on our Hurtigruten coastal tour. Our Svinøya tour explored that rich fishing heritage and the harsh life of northern Norway's early fishers. It was late at night and the kids had fallen asleep when we arrived in Tromsø. I set off alone to do some exploring and completely forgot to video anything. But I did take some photos of the gorgeous Arctic Cathedral. The next morning, as we polished off our breakfast, we heard the announcement that we were passing the Arctic Circle. We joined the rest of the passengers on the top deck for the traditional sipping of the cod liver oil. Not all of us enjoyed it. But we did get to keep our commemorative spoons. The following morning, we stopped in the town of Brønnøysund. Where we took some time to stretch our legs by exploring the town and the historic Brønnøy Church before heading to the marina to watch the world go by. The next few hours were spent on the boat just relaxing and taking in the jaw-dropping views of coastal Norway. These views included Hurtigruten, which is a mountain made famous for having a natural hole that reaches from one side to the other. Our final stop of the day was in Sandnessjøen. We didn't have a lot of time, so we just wandered around the town a bit for heading back to the boat. Late that night, as we were curled up comfortably in our cabin, the announcement came through that something that we had been waiting for was finally occurring. We ran up to the top deck to see one of the best natural shows on Earth. The next morning, we woke up early for our biggest Hurtigruten tour, a journey to the Mold Marble Mine. We docked in Kristiansand and began our journey along the coast. Our first stop was at one of Norway's most famous bridges along the Atlantic Road. It's one of those places where you just can't find a bad angle to explore it. The Mold Marble Mine was truly a unique place to explore. We enjoyed an underground cruise to the peaceful surroundings before enjoying some of the local flavors in one of the caves. Our final stop before reaching the town of Bergen was the beautiful city of Trondheim. It also almost marked the end of our Hurtigruten journey. We decided to explore Trondheim on our own rather than signing up for one of the excursions. We checked the distances and figured we should be able to make it up to the beautiful Nidaros Church and back with time to spare. We didn't take into consideration last-minute bathroom emergencies. While I was too rushed to grab any video of our mad dash back to the boat, here's the photo of one of the stewards reluctantly lowering the gangway for us to get on board. Yikes! The final stop on our journey was the city of Bergen, which may just be our favorite city in all of Norway. But we'll save that one for our next video. Thank you so much for sharing in our travels. Please hit those like and subscribe buttons to stay up to date with our latest adventures. It really helps, and we appreciate each and every one of you who does this. We'll see you next time on Wandering Waggers Adventure Family Travel.